Unsafe neighborhoods are something many people hear about. Not everyone truly understands what they feel like for the residents of the neighborhoods. For some families, feeling unsafe isn't just a worry, it's part of everyday life. Our Praxis project focuses on unsafe neighborhoods and how they affect individuals, schools, and entire communities. We chose this topic because everyone deserves to feel safe where they live, walk, and grow up. So, what are the main causes of unsafe neighborhoods? And what are some possible solutions to making neighborhoods safer? When we talk about unsafe neighborhoods, we're not only talking about crime, we're also talking about things like poor lighting, abandoned houses, lack of community resources, and limited opportunity for young people. These problems can create fear and stress, and they make it harder for people to succeed. Kids may not feel safe walking to school, parents may worry about letting their children play outside, and neighbors may stop trusting one another. Over time, this can weaken an entire community, but unsafe neighborhoods do not define the people who live in them. Many residents are strong, hardworking, and care deeply about the community. They want the same things anyone else wants: safety, opportunity, and a better future for their families. The purpose of this project is not to judge these neighborhoods, but to understand them and to think about real solutions. In this video, we will move through four main parts: awareness, analysis, action, and conclusion. We will build awareness by looking at what unsafe neighborhoods are and how common they are. Then we will analyze the causes and effects behind these conditions. After that, we will explore actions that can be taken by individuals, communities, and local leaders. Finally, we will reflect on what we learned and how this project changed our perspective. Our goal is to show that even though this issue is serious, positive change is possible when people choose to care and get involved. And our essential question is, what are the main causes of unsafe neighborhoods, and what are some possible solutions to making neighborhoods safer?
Unsafe neighborhoods don't just affect the people who live in them, they affect entire cities. High crime rates, abandoned homes, and limited job opportunities impact schools, businesses, and public safety for everyone. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, communities with concentrated poverty often have less access to quality education, healthcare, and stable employment. This shows that the environment people grow up in directly shapes the opportunities they have later in life. These conditions didn't just happen randomly. They were shaped by redlining, job loss, long term disinvestment, and the development of food deserts. The research from the National Community Reinvestment Coalition shows that redlining limited mortgage lending and investment in many black and minority neighborhoods, which led to lasting wealth gaps and housing inequality that still exists today. One example is East Cleveland. In an article published by the New York Times, journalist Shayla Dewan explains that the population dropped from about 41,000 in 1970 to around 17,000 in 2010. This happened because of deindustrialization, job loss, redlining, and white flight. The article also explains how thousands of homes have been demolished. The median household income is $21,000, and the poverty rate is over 40%. These statistics show that the unsafe neighborhoods grow out of structural inequality, not just individual choices of the residents. Housing conditions also play a major role. According to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, neighborhoods with high vacancy and abandonment rates often experience declining property values and less investment. As businesses leave and families move away, more schools and local services struggle, which makes recovery even harder. Crime patterns reflect these conditions too. Data from the Federal Bureau of Investigation shows that violent crime is often concentrated in areas facing high poverty and housing instability. There have been numerous reports of serious crimes occurring in neglected neighborhoods over the years, affecting people of all ages. For example, in November 2025 in Cleveland, a 5-year-old girl named Amari Jones was brutally assaulted. She was beaten, raped, and urinated on, and left in a field. While she survived, she will carry that trauma of that experience for the rest of her life. And the fact that the individuals responsible were children between the ages of 8 and 10 highlights how deeply environments shaped by violence and instability can affect young people. When children are exposed to crime, poverty, and neglect from an early age, the consequences can be profound and long lasting. All of this research points to the same idea. Unsafe neighborhoods are not just the result of personal decisions. They are shaped by historical, economic, and social systems that limited investment and opportunity in certain communities. These conditions often affect entire cities, not just the residents in the neighborhoods who live there. Understanding this helps shift the focus away from blaming individuals and towards recognizing the bigger systemic issues. Real change starts with addressing those root causes like investing in housing, education, public health, and community resources. This is so that neighborhoods have the support they need to become safe and stable over time.
Catholic social teaching is a doctrine rooted in scripture and tradition that guides us in building communities grounded in love, justice, and respect for all people. It is founded on 7 core principles that emphasize human dignity and our responsibility towards one another. These principles help us understand how faith should influence the way we respond to real-world issues. When examining unsafe neighborhoods, 2 principles stand out the most clearly: rights and responsibilities, and call to family, community, and participation. The principle of rights and responsibilities begins with the belief that every person is created in the image of God and is given equal God-given rights. These rights include access to basic necessities such as food, shelter, healthcare, and personal safety. However, rights do not exist on their own. When our rights are met, we are called to protect the rights of others, especially those who are unable to defend themselves. In Isaiah chapter 1, verse 17, we are commanded to learn to do good, seek justice, correct oppression, bring justice to the fatherless, and plead the widow's cause. This verse calls us to defend the vulnerable and confront injustice directly. This reflects the Holy Cross charism of option for the poor, which calls us to stand with those who are marginalized and protect their dignity. Recognizing unsafe conditions means taking responsibility to respond. Unsafe neighborhoods often develop because of systemic injustice rather than individual failure. High crime rates are connected to issues such as lack of resources, limited educational opportunities, poor access to healthcare, and unfair job conditions. Catholic social teaching calls us to confront these injustices through charity and meaningful action while working towards long-term solutions that address root causes. These solutions include investing in safe infrastructure like streetlights, supporting quality schools, expanding access to healthcare, and ensuring fair job opportunities. These efforts protect the dignity and humanity of every person. The principle of call to family, community, and participation emphasizes that every person has both the right and duty to participate in their community. Strong neighborhoods are built when people work together for the common good. In 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verses 25 through 26, St. Paul teaches that if one part suffers, every part suffers with it. When one neighborhood suffers from violence or neglect, we are all affected. We are one body called to care for each other. This reflects the Holy Cross charism of hope, which calls us to believe that through unity, faith, and action, communities can be strengthened. Ultimately, Catholic social teaching calls individuals and communities to work together to protect human dignity and ensure that every community is safe and valued.
To get a real-world perspective, I sat down with Captain Donovan Paquette of the Mayfield Heights Police Department. Going into this interview, with only the knowledge I gained from my research and previous experiences, I had some strong assumptions that were really different from what I learned. Firstly, I used to believe that crime was mostly the result of residents' individual choices. But when you look at Cleveland's architecture, you can see that the unmaintained and abandoned buildings also are a factor. When a city ignores a neighborhood, it gives the residents a sense of hopelessness, believing that the city doesn't see them as worth the time. I also initially thought safety was more about how many cops are out on the streets arresting people. But Captain Paquette corrected me. He explained to me that while police arresting criminals is a part of it, the main way to keep the neighborhood safe is through general acts of common good. In Mayfield Heights, Captain Paquette said they do this in the form of community engagement and youth programs that they host. When we work with the people in these neighborhoods, we are living out solidarity, as we are standing with the families in these neighborhoods before a crime is ever committed, which ensures that they have the resources and motivation to thrive. The most surprising thing, though, was the data. Just 4% of Cleveland's geography accounts for nearly half of all violent crime in Cleveland. This proves that it isn't just a problem with the city in general, but instead a problem with policy. Because of this, the power is held by the mayor and city leaders who decide which areas get the resources and which ones don't. To fix this injustice of unsafe neighborhoods, we must shift the power back to the communities. This means moving away from heavy police enforcement and towards active community engagement and repair. We have the power to cut this problem off at its roots, but only if we prioritize the safety of the most vulnerable which in this case is the people in these neighborhoods.
Unsafe neighborhoods require action from both the community and local leaders to create lasting and meaningful change. One of the most important responses is increasing community involvement. Neighborhood watch programs, youth activities, and community events help residents build trust with one another and create a shared sense of responsibility. When people know their neighbors and feel connected to their community, they are more likely to look out for one another and prevent crime before it happens. Improving neighborhood infrastructure is another key action. Adding streetlights, repairing sidewalks, and maintaining parks and public spaces can make a major difference in safety. Well-lit and cared-for areas discourage criminal activity and make residents feel more comfortable walking outside, especially at night. Clean and maintained spaces also show that a neighborhood is valued, which can reduce neglect and crime. Community-based policing also plays an important role in making neighborhoods safer. When police officers work closely with residents instead of only responding to emergencies, communication and trust improve. This allows law enforcement to better understand the needs of the community and address problems more effectively. Finally, long-term solutions must address root causes such as poverty, lack of educational opportunities, and limited access to jobs. Without addressing these issues, unsafe conditions are likely to continue. Together, community involvement, improved infrastructure, supporting policing, and long-term investment can transform unsafe neighborhoods into safer, stronger, and more supportive communities.
In conclusion, unsafe neighborhoods in Cleveland, Ohio are not just a coincidence. They are the result of a long-term social and economic problem. Many of these neighborhoods struggle with high poverty rates, lack of job opportunities, unfunded schools, and limited access to community resources. When people don't have stable housing, quality education, or employment options, crime becomes more likely and safety becomes harder to maintain. Another major factor is the lack of investment in certain areas of the city. Some neighborhoods have been ignored for decades, leading to abandoned buildings, poor infrastructure, and fewer businesses. These conditions can make neighborhoods feel unsafe and can increase criminal activity. This shows that unsafe neighborhoods are a systematic injustice, meaning the problem is built into how society and institutions operate, not caused by individuals alone. However, there is hope for change. Improving safety in Cleveland requires investing in communities instead of neglecting them. This includes better funding for schools, more job training programs, affordable housing, and access to mental health services. Increasing community-based policing and supporting local organizations can also help build trust between residents and law enforcement. Unsafe neighborhoods affect everyone, not just the people who live there. When communities are safer, people can put their focus elsewhere, like on education, work, and overall building better futures. Addressing unsafe neighborhoods in Cleveland is an act of justice because it gives residents the opportunity to live with dignity, security, and hope. By focusing on long-term solutions, Cleveland can move toward becoming a safer and more equal city for all.